Hi everyone, it's Rukshan here, coming to you live from the gardens in Parliament House. I'm here for an exclusive interview with an MP, just to discuss an issue that's been just in the last few hours breaking, which is that politicians, members of Parliament in Victoria, will be required to be vaccinated from the 22nd of October if they are to come in to the Houses of Parliament here to represent their constituents. So I'm just here for some live reaction from an MP, just to get his thoughts and get an understanding of what these rules mean, and also his reaction to it and what he will be doing. So I'm just going to walk up here to David Limbrick from the Liberal Democrats, member of the Legislative Assembly. So David, thanks for coming on this live.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
What can you tell me about, I guess, what's been proposed and how it kind of, why people should be thinking about this issue?
Okay, so the government's been mandating a number of industries for vaccination. So they started off with aged care, and now they've gone to construction, healthcare workers, teachers, and now all authorised workers, which includes people who work in supermarkets, truck drivers, pretty much large chunk of the workforce. Now, we've opposed these mandates on a few grounds. Firstly, we think there's a serious issue around consent. We believe, and our human rights charter and many other international precedents say that people shouldn't be subjected to medical procedures without full and free consent. We think that when someone puts a gun to your head and says, you take this vaccine or you lose your job, that's clearly undue pressure and coercion, which is against what is meant to happen with consent. Secondly, there's an issue around privacy. So people shouldn't have to disclose their medical details to their employer unless it's relevant to their job. But what they're doing now is they're doing it to members of Parliament as well. Now, members of Parliament are authorised workers. They've been able to work during the pandemic along with the media and other people. And they're not allowed to do it through the emergency directions. So the emergency directions can't dictate to members of Parliament what they can do. So what they're doing instead of that is they're going to move what's called a motion in Parliament next week through both the lower house, the Legislative Assembly, and the upper house, the Legislative Council, which I'm a member of. And what this will do is it will force members to hand over their medical details before the end of next week. And if they don't do it by the end of next week, they'll be prohibited from entering the parliamentary precinct, like what you see here, and also going to their offices. So that will mean that you can't conduct business within the Parliament grounds. The security passes, like I just had around my neck, will be disabled, and you won't be able to go into the chamber and debate or vote on issues. We think that this is yet another breach of human rights, the right to participate in public life. We think that this is a very terrifying precedent of dictating by... Now, we've stated already, Tim Quilty and I, that we won't be complying with this direction. We won't be handing over our medical details. And the reason that we're doing this is not for ourselves. We're doing it because we oppose vaccine mandates on the population. We think it should be a personal matter between a patient and a doctor, not for the government to dictate. But as well, we think that this is a terrible attack on democracy, the way that they're doing this for members of Parliament as well. So this is just another human rights issue that they've breached. Also, many of you will be aware that the state of emergency is ending in December. Now, we don't know what's going to happen after that. There's been media reports about some sort of secret permanent pandemic legislation. Now, that will have to be voted on before December. So what's actually going to happen here is so Tim Quilty and I, will effectively be excluded from voting on that until, well, it'll have to go through before December. We'll be excluded from voting on that rather conveniently and we won't be allowed back into Parliament until the second sitting day of next year, which will be around February, I think. So yeah, that's the current situation. Look, it's not a done deal. It still needs to pass, but apparently I just read moments ago that disgracefully the Liberal Party is going to support this. I can't understand how, in any sense of the word, this would be aligned with their principles. You know, if the Liberal Party supports this, then I think they need to rethink their position on this. This is a terrible attack on individual liberty, on human rights, and on democracy itself.
Thank you for sharing that with me, David. In terms of, I guess, the stance that you just said that you're taking, you and Tim Coulty are taking, I guess is that around principles, or just kind of because you're representing the views of constituents that have those views? Like, do you feel like potentially you're being silenced from representing those views in Parliament?
Well, we're certainly being prevented from entering Parliament and voting on things. We may be able to participate remotely, but you can't vote remotely. There's no ability to do that. So we would be excluded from any votes, which, you know, is one of the most important things in Parliament. I read as well in the newspaper just now that there is another member of Parliament that said that they're not handing over their medical details from the Liberal Party itself. I'm aware of other MPs who have concerns, but I can't speak for them. I'll allow them to speak for themselves. But there's certainly not just 2 or 3 of us. There's a number of MPs who have serious concerns about what's going on here.
Thank you for your time today, David. I appreciate your time. Well, there you go, everyone. I just spoke with David Limbrick there, a Liberal Democrat MP here in the Parliament of Victoria, and as you can see, there potentially is wide-ranging ramifications from the introduction of these rules in Parliament House, particularly if it may impact MPs who do not want to share that information or participate in that to represent their constituents. So there's a lot of things to think about. I'll be doing another follow-up story on this later on today. But yeah, thank you for joining me for the live stream, and see you all next time.